Fox Sports.
We are the Fourth. We are Florida.
Last night, the Marlins returned home, and so did Jose Fernandez. Miami took down the Nats 4-1. Tonight, Tom Kohler tries to stay on his roll. In Miami tonight, Marlins and Nationals getting ready to renew acquaintance. The Marlins have handled the Nationals this year, and they handled them last night. A 4-1 win. That was nice. But the page is turned to tonight. Guess what? Michael Morse is in uniform and in the Marlins dugout. Matt Latos there as well. That was not supposed to be the case 2 or 3 hours ago. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz along with Tommy Hutton. If you follow baseball or sports in the last 3 or 4 hours, you've heard that the Marlins and the Dodgers had worked out a deal for Matt Latos and Michael Morse to join the Dodgers. 3 minor leaguers to come here. Ken Rosenthal of Fox Sports is reporting right now that that trade has been held up.
A little bit of a hold up. I think there's a third team involved. This is just speculation on my part, but as long as that is not official, Matt Latos and Michael Morse remain Marlins. There's the possible trade. Been a rough year for Michael Morse as far as offense. Lately for Matt Latos, he's come on strong and thrown some good games.
Well, speaking of a good game, Jose Fernandez didn't have a great game, but good enough to get the win last night. I'll tell you what, if you look down the Marlins rotation and say who's up next, Tom Kohler has had a terrific July.
Tom Kohler has been one of the most solid pitchers in the month of July, but I'm going to take you back to June. In June, he had an ERA at 2.93. How about July? 1.44. This was his last outing against the Padres. Gave up just 3 hits, no runs. Tom Kohler has been solid. He has been steady for a couple of months.
Last night was disabled list night. If you were on the disabled list and you were in uniform, you're back out there playing. 2 big stars for the Nationals and an all-star back for Miami. Great to see D. Gordon, and he picked up right where he left off.
Boy, did D. Gordon have an impact on the ball game last night. He did a little bit of everything. First time up, all right, base hit. He did get thrown out. He was caught stealing. An on-base percentage of over 360 for D. Gordon. How about a triple in a game? He sent a triple. He also had a sac bunt. He also made a terrific defensive play in the 9th inning to start a double play. So D. Gordon was welcomed back, and we enjoyed watching him.
And he's leading off tonight as the Marlins get set to take on the Washington Nationals. What's the latest on the trade front? When we get back, we're headed out to center field. Craig Minervini and Jeff Conine. days away, but everything's swirling around the Marlins and the Dodgers. For more, Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine.
All right, Rich, many thought the deal was done. The fact was it was not done, and it still is in a lingering stage right now, Jeff Conine.
Yeah, I think with the advent of social media nowadays, I think so many rumors get out there, they get tossed around, the players hear about it, teams hear about it, and I think guys get on edge. But in fact, this deal might be a long ways from done. We don't know yet. But I think back in the day when all this stuff didn't exist, the Facebook and the Twitter and the Instagram, that guys didn't find out about it until it was already done, and then they were told, hey, you're with another team.
That was a unique shot there. Just Letos say hi to Michael Morse. So both were not even out for batting practice, which obviously gives credence to not only rumors, but the fact that this deal was this close to being done, but it's not. And things happen in baseball. There's no doubt the Dodgers have to find a third team because Michael Morse is not a fit with them with Gonzalez unless they had an injury, and they're crowded outfield. There's nowhere for him to play. There's no DH.
Yeah, there's really Carl Crawford can't even break that outfield out in L.A. right now, so Michael Morse is probably rumored for that third team that we don't know about. That's probably what's holding this deal up.
There have been some rumors about a couple teams in the National League, but nothing done yet. We'll update you if it does become official. Right now, as you can see, both Letos and Morse are in uniform as we turn our attention to Kohler and a guy with a new number, Doug Fister. More on that as the ball game gets underway here on Fox Sports Florida.
Florida is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. By Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer. Visit us at FloridaCoastEQ.com. And by Auto Nation. Visit us online at AutoNation.com. Nationals and Marlins. Marlins part game 2. 3-game series. The Nationals with a slender 1-game lead in the East. Coming into play tonight, JM Lexus brings you their starting lineup. Anthony Rendon's at second. Yunel Escobar's at third. Jason Worth just off the disabled list last night. Bryce Harper, 3 homers against Tom Kohler last time they met. Ryan Zimmerman at first. Ian Desmond at short. Michael Taylor, Fort Lauderdale kids in center. Jose Lobaton will do the catching, and Doug Fister in the 9th spot. Hey, there is Tom Kohler.
You talked, Rich, about those home runs for Harper. 2 starts Tom Kohler's had against the Nationals. One right here, and he pitched a tremendous 7 1/3 innings. It was an 8-0 win. Gave up 6 hits and no runs. The other was that start in Washington, D.C. But it has been a steady and consistent Tom Kohler. Tries to win his 9th game here tonight. Makes his 19th start of the season.
Miami's defense was very good last night. BMW brings you tonight's version.
Well, the defense made some key plays last night. Dietrich, Yelich, and Ichiro in the outfield. Martin Prado and Echeverria. What a double play D. Gordon and Echeverria turned last night. At the end of the game, Justin Bour's at first and Real Muto behind the plate.
And so Tom Kohler takes aim at the Nationals on a mound and in a ballpark where he has thrived. His home ERA under 2. And he delivers a fastball that misses down low. Pitch betting brings you that first pitch. Anthony Rendon, Yunel Escobar, and Jason Worth for the Nationals, who are 6 over and 1 up. Kohler misses away with a fastball. Last 4 starts for Kohler, very good. Rendon in game number 22 on the season. Injuries have been a big part of the Nationals' year. Kohler trying to find the strike zone, goes 3-0 on a diminutive hitter with a lot of pop for Matt Williams. Kohler misses and misses badly on all 4. Rendon walks. Here comes Yunel Escobar.
If memory serves, that's the way Tom Kohler began the game in San Diego. With a first batter walk, he ended up going 7 innings, giving up 3 hits and no runs.
And that's the most impressive thing, as Escobar stands in. He was 0 for 3 with a couple of walks last night. Kohler, his last 4 starts, he's 2-2 with a 1.44 ERA. But what makes that exceptional, all 4 of those were on the road. So 4 consecutive road starts where Kohler, going into that stretch, had really struggled. Great at home, not so good on the road. It seems like he's cured that. He gets a strike on Escobar with Worth and Harper waiting in the wings.
I think if you go back to June 5th, you really got that jump start that Tom Kohler did with that start he had at Coors Field. 7 innings, just 1 run to the Rockies. And that's when they had Tulowitzki.
Yeah, that's the home road split. And as we noted, his last 4 starts, they've all been on the road, and the ERA is 1.44, which has dropped his overall ERA to a career low at 3.16. 1-2. Breaking ball fouled. His whip, walks and hits per innings pitched, is at a career low 1.19.
The one blip on the radar screen in those 4 consecutive road starts was at Fenway Park. 5 hits and 5 runs in his 6 innings. But other than that, the other 3 were tremendous.
5 unearned runs in that span in the 4-game stretch. And of course, it's always a bit of a debate whether a pitcher's error should be counted as a fielder's error in adding up earned runs or unearned runs. Kohler had a pair of his own errors in those games that helped that unearned run total of 5. Good battle here, the 1-2. That voice you heard was Escobar
telling himself, no, lay off that pitch.
I think he was telling himself, and then once it came down, he was telling the umpire. But you look at the pitch, it's like it just clipped the knees. 2-2 coming. Got him. Great pitch by Tom Kohler.
Escobar didn't talk loud enough to himself on that pitch. Here's lately for Tom Kohler. Since June 15th, 6 starts, just incredible numbers. A 1.62 ERA. Opponents hitting 181, and look at the whip. It is below 1. Just fantastic with control, not giving up a lot of base hits.
Chuck Hernandez, his pitching coach, will tell you it's fastball command with Tom Kohler. That gives him good location. And he goes a Fastball at the letters. Worth fouls it back. Jason Worth may have just come off the disabled list, but his hair is in mid-season form. Like he's been in the lineup the whole year without a haircut. But of course, that's one of the endearing things about Worth. He's as gritty and gutty a guy as you'll find. And he has good numbers against Tom Kohler. And when the Nationals signed him to that long-term deal, taking him away from the Phillies, many people said, it's way too much money for a guy like Worth. Matt Williams wasn't here at the time, but it has turned out to be a really nice move because the Nationals were able to build around him. He was kind of along with Zimmerman, the real cornerstone. Into the seats.
Well, he's the kind of guy, and certainly you and I have seen him with the Phillies and now with the Nationals over the years. 15 career home runs against the Marlins. Comes up with big base hits many times. Tremendous outfielder. They moved him into left field. A little more comfortable for him in left field than right field now.
He's got 3 years and $63 million left on that deal, which was a 7-year, $126 million contract. Realmuto sets up in. Kohler hits his spot and then overthrows D. Gordon. We talked about the throwing errors for Kohler, and that'll be the third that he's had in his last 4 starts.
Boy, that's like throwing a double play away. That's like adding a bunch of more pitches because he would have been in the dugout if he makes a good throw. D. Gordon's there, would have turned the double play. He does just get a glove on it, but can't make a grab. So a throwing error, and right here, Tom Kohler can only blame himself. Now he has to come back and make some good pitches, but look who he has to deal with.
So E1, and here is Harper, who has gone 9 straight games without a homer. That's his longest stretch without homering this year. First and second, 1 out. Kohler misses low. Realmuto gets a piece. No swing on the appeal. And the last time these two guys met, Kohler and Harper, it wasn't pretty in D.C. 3 home runs from that afternoon game.
And look at that, in his career, 5 hits, 4 of them home runs.
That's a strike. It's 1-1.
Harper's been a little more patient, certainly this year, an on-base percentage of .460. He has also reached base 24 straight games.
Breaking ball and a good one, and Harper swung through it.
Boy, he was totally fooled on that breaking pitch. Good rotation. He missed that ball a mile.
That one down low. This was that afternoon earlier this year.
Fastball out over the plate. He went the other way. Fastball up. He takes it up into that second deck. That was a little slider, a little breaking ball. Did not fool Harper. So it almost appeared each home run got further.
2-2. And that breaking ball went 55 feet. Realmuto got a piece of it. Now the count is full, and with 1 out, as Chuck Hernandez watches, Kohler's thrown 20 pitches, 10 strikes, 10 balls. Let's see what Matt Williams does here. Rendon's the lead runner. Worth getting an earful from his first base coach. Not running, and he got him. Kohler strikes out Harper. That's a big out.
Boy, it's a big out in a lot of ways because it's not easy for a pitcher to put behind the throwing error. It put Tom Kohler in this jam, but he came back with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball in a great spot in under the hands, tied up Harper. Big strikeout for TK.
You could hear and you could see the home plate umpire Ben May signal. He did get a piece of it. So credit Real Muto to hanging on for strike 3. And here now is Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman off the DL last night. Had a couple of hits and he takes a strike. He doubled against Jose Fernandez in the 2nd, singled in the 8th off of Carter Capps. Right out of the chute, Tom Kohler has a stressful inning. There's the split. Balls and strikes. One to Zimmerman. Liner, got it! D. Gordon. Flash Jr. to the rescue. And Tom Kohler escapes. Zimmerman hit it right on the button. Boy, it's nice to have D. Gordon back, isn't it? Great leadoff hitter, playing Gold Glove defense this year. Scoreless ballgame just underway, bottom of the 1st. And here are the Marlins tonight at 42 and 58. Jam Lexus brings it to you. D. Gordon in that leadoff spot. Last night, welcome back. Couple hits, including a triple. Martin Prado, Christian Yelich, Justin Bour hits cleanup. JT Realmuto's hot. He's in the 5 spot. D. Gordon's in the box, and he takes a strike. Derek Dietrich, Ichiro, Denny Echeverria, and then Tom Kohler to face Doug Fister.
We talk about it a lot, Rich, with Matt Latos. Doug Fister, 6'8". When he's on his game, he gets that good angle, and when he keeps the ball down, gets a lot of ground ball outs.
Gordon, the first pitch he saw last night after a couple weeks on the DL, he punched into left for a single. His triple was to the track in right center field. Drills that one to right. Harper is there. He makes the catch. Good swing by Gordon. Hit it on the nose. Here's the angle, which is, as you point out, so important for Fister.
Big, tall guy. Mentioned 6'8". And there it is. You see a lot of sinkers. He'll mix in a breaking ball, a few change-ups.
Heard Frank Menachino when asked about Pfister dropping Iron Mike, the old pitching machine.
Kind of like Cole Mentor,
Yes,
Arizona.
Absolutely. Or a Chris Young, the big, tall Princeton pitcher. Martin Prado had a nice night last night, 3 for 3 with a walk. He has terrific numbers against Jordan Zimmerman, and I asked him why, what's the deal there, and he said he didn't really have an explanation because it seems to him that every time Zimmerman faces him, Zimmerman changes his approach, and for whatever reason, Prado said, I've been on the same page as that change.
Well, he's been reading a good book. He's been on the same page a lot against Zimmerman.
He's also been swinging a nice bat in the month of July. Remember, he had that shoulder injury that put him on the disabled list. A lot of balls back up the box, right up the middle. Count evens at 2-2.
There's a slider from Pfister. 63 and 62 is Doug Pfister in his career. What else do we have on Pfister? He has that quick delivery. You've seen that. Pitches to contact. Not a big strikeout guy. And there's the downer curve once in a while. He'll use that.
Prado fouls it at the plate. The loss costly last night for the Nationals. And overall, Washington's dropped 7 of 10 and 4 of their last 5. Their lead has melted to just 1 game. We'll keep an eye on the Mets and the Padres. Padres have a couple runs in that first inning to lead it 2-0. Who wants it out there? And it's Taylor who takes it. Worth, who's played some center field himself, lets him have it.
And here's the defense for the Nationals tonight, brought to you by BMW. There's Worth and Taylor. Harper in right field. Escobar and Desmond. Rendon, the second baseman. Ryan Zimmerman. Jose Lobaton behind the plate.
Now Yelich. Christian Yelich last night with a couple of hits. A line drive out as well. Knocked in a run. Brings that one towards the line and deep. Harper over, and he makes the catch. Just getting to the track. Bryce Harper runs it down, and the Marlins are done in order. 3 fly ball outs against Doug Pfister.
Marlins Baseball es presentado en español vía SAP por West Kendall Toyota.
In Miami tonight, Rich Waltz, Tommy Hutton, Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine, all here tonight. Tom Kohler, a bumpy ride in that first inning. And as Tommy pointed out, his own doing, a throwing error on what looked like a nice comebacker double play ball. He overshot D. Gordon. It was Gordon who bailed him out with a diving catch on the Zimmerman line drive. Kohler back to work. Ian Desmond. Happy to see that Jose Fernandez is not on the mound. Is Desmond. Michael Taylor, Jose Lobaton will follow.
Well, there have been a lot of guys that have struck out Ian Desmond this year. 114 strikeouts. He's walked just 21 times. But last night against Jose, Desmond was 0 for 3 against Jose with 3 strikeouts. 0 for 12, 10 strikeouts against Jose in his career. And just for good measure, Carter Capps got him later in the game.
Counts 2-1. Desmond swings through a fastball. We'll be monitoring all the news reports and anything we get regarding Matt Latos and Michael Morse and the potential trade to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Little chopper, Bohr flips. Kohler is there and he steps on the bag. First out, second inning. Remember, tomorrow's a 12:10 start, and if you're coming, bring your campers because it's camp day. It's presented by TD Bank. Seniors 55 and older can get free tickets on Senior Free Ticket Thursday. It's presented by Wellmax Medical Centers. Go to Marlins.com for tickets. Desmond is out. Here is Michael Taylor. If you're just joining us and you haven't heard about the, I don't know if you can call it an impending trade. Potential trade's probably the safest way to describe it, or rumored trade.
Rumored trade.
Reported,
I like that.
but it's been reported, right?
As a rumor.
Yeah, I guess. Anyways, Michael Morse, Matt Latos to the Dodgers, 3 minor leaguers. A competitive balance pick is going from Miami to the Dodgers. That's the only draft pick you can trade in baseball, and the Marlins, this will be year 3, I believe, in a row that the Marlins have used a competitive balance pick in a trade. If the rumored trade actually happens. 0-2 pitch. Pulled to Prado. And throw to first in time.
Well, it looks like Tom Kohler has gotten into a nice rhythm after that first inning. That's good news.
Now, there are different reports to, I guess, categorize this. One, Ken Rosenthal saying that the trade is being held up right now. Bob Nightingale has said it's being held up by paperwork. But this would be the framework of the deal.
And part of the rumor is it being held up because the Dodgers aren't really a fit for Michael Morse. And there possibly is a third team involved. Could the Dodgers, and they have been rumored, they've been looking at Cole Hamels. They've been looking at David Price. So would that be the third team? You don't know. So that could be what is holding it up.
And whether that third team gets involved with the Marlins or solely with the Dodgers, you don't know either.
I would expect it would be with the Dodgers.
For now, Morse is in uniform on the lineup card. Smacked up the middle, and Jose Lobaton, who's catching for the Nationals tonight, has a 2-out single. So here comes Pfister. You can go behind the scenes on social media with Fox Sports Florida and our telecast all season long on Instagram and Twitter at Fox Marlins. That's when you get a foul ball, you have to document it.
You have to tweet out the experience. Had some nice tweets last night during Jose's game. Notice Pfister gave his uniform number to Jonathan Papelbon. Pfister was wearing 58. So he's changed. He's wearing number 33 tonight.
And Papelbon is in the building and in uniform and available to pitch tonight. Drew Storen, who's had a really nice year as the Nationals closer, didn't seem to be too pleased, was kind of tight-lipped, issued a no comment. But for now, they've got two really nice closers. And the reason Storen is kind of that way right now and probably pushed out of shape is Papelbon had a no trade that he had to waive, and the only way he would waive it is if he went to a place where he could close. An assurance that he would close. 1-2. Got him. Breaking ball. Kohler gives up a hit, strands that runner. Scoreless ball game. Nationals Marlins. That's some visor and some hair. Scoreless Nationals Marlins. Craig Minervini. Craig?
Absolutely. All right, we got a chance to listen in to Jonathan Papelbon, who had a press conference about 4:45 this afternoon. And one of the topics that came up is the number 58 that he has worn. He has now lifted off the back of Doug Pfister and put on his back. And he said, yes, there was some compensation. He smirked, but he did not indicate how much. Apparently, he made some kind of connection with him or with the Nationals management yesterday to have that number set for number 58. So Pfister agreed to go over to number 33. So why is 58 so important? Well, Papelbon said, when I became a Boston Red Sox 11 years ago, Pookie, the veteran clubhouse guy, gave me number 58. I asked why, and he said, that's you're a rookie. That's your number 58. And Jonathan said, I'm going to make number 58 special. So he's worn it his whole career. So that's why they made the move. Pfister wearing what some people call the Brooklyn Forest.
The Brooklyn Forest.
Yeah, that's two trees.
See, I knew Craig, when I mentioned that, I knew Craig would have more on the numbers story.
See, a very lukewarm response on
I didn't know he would tag it with the two trees, though.
There it is. So I don't know if 33 means anything to Mr. Pfister, though.
Well, right now, Pfister is looking for win number 4.
Well, the Marlins have seen him before, and he's pitched well. This is the first time he has faced the Marlins this year. But in his career, 2-0 with an ERA just a little over 1 against Miami.
See, he was drafted originally in '06 by Seattle. Seattle sent him to Detroit in the Charlie Furbush trade. Casper Wells. And he really, once Pfister got to Detroit, his numbers, especially wins and losses, turned right around. That probably had something to do with Seattle's lack of offense while he was there. Ian Desmond makes the catch. Get this, first 3 years, he's 12-30 with Seattle, but his ERA is 3.81. That's not great.
Good ballpark to pitch in.
Yeah, gets to Detroit, drops his ERA to 3.29, and he goes 32-20.
They had a little muscle behind him in that offense.
And then last year he was really good in just 25 starts, a 2.41 earned run average, 16-6. Bartolo Colon getting knocked around early. 4-0 Padres over the Mets.
Well, what a nice run for JT Realmuto. He's on a 9-game hitting streak. Go back last 36 games, hitting about 315. He's confident, getting comfortable, calling pitches for different pitchers.
And we've heard Dan Jennings talk about it. Frank Menachino today talked about it. Realmuto was leading the ball club in hard hit outs. He was spraying line drives all over the place and not getting a lot of results. So there wasn't a lot of panic in the Marlins coaching ranks with Realmuto because they liked what they saw in terms of the swing. The results, including the hits and all of that, just weren't showing up. Now the hits are showing up. Breaking ball, and he pops it to shallow left. Work. Makes the catch. Doug Pfister has retired all 5 that he's faced. Here comes Derek Dietrich.
Rich, we want to wish a speedy recovery to one of our favorites, Cookie Rojas. Had some surgery in the hospital for a few days, so recovering. Certainly want to wish Cookie all the best. Hope he's watching a little bit. If he is, I know he's thinking a little baseball.
And Cookie, we miss you, and we hope you're doing well. Here is Dietrich. Derek Dietrich takes down low. Dietrich an 0 for 2 night last night. Getting to start in left field. This is game 3 in left field for Dietrich in the big leagues. And now he has played in 2 more games in left in the big leagues than he did in the minor leagues.
You know, part of it's just making the adjustments on fly balls, line drives. Any balls on the ground, you just have to go into infielder mode. Pick it, get it back into the cutoff man as quickly as possible.
That hits Dietrich. He turns, and it clipped him right in that elbow. So he's aboard.
Well, he has a knack of doing that on pitches that aren't that far inside. Unfortunately, one of these days he's going to do it, and the pitch is going to be called a strike because it's in the strike zone.
Ichiro now. Ichiro 1 for 3 last night. Pfister, former teammate of Ichiro's, misses in. Line to left, and it's fair. Into the corner. Dietrich racing for third. He will score. And Miami's up 1-0.
All of a sudden, Ichiro getting that magic wand working. Hit number 2,900 now for Ichiro. He takes this one inside out, keeps it fair down that line. And good running by Dietrich. Got a good jump. Lenny Harris saying, go ahead, you're going to score. And he does, not even drawing a throw.
First double this year for Ichiro, and a bit of comedy afterwards. The Marlins bench were asking for the baseball, and so it was thrown to Yunel Escobar at third. Escobar didn't realize that. He turned and threw it into the seats. Pitch misses outside, and everybody in the Marlins dugout reacted like, no. Lenny Harris was able to go over and get the baseball, and he replaced the ball with another for the fan who gave it up. So Marlins got the ball. Ichiro's 100 hits away from 3,000. It counts 0-1 to Adeiny Echeverria.
All right, get the ball. They replace it. Fan gets the ball. Everybody's happy. And remember, this inning started with 2 out, and Dietrich getting hit off that elbow.
Here's a spot for Echeverria where if you're Doug Fister, he's trying to avoid his bat, make him chase something out of the zone. And Echeverria, with the pitcher on deck, couldn't check his swing. It's 1-2. Did not go that time.
Quick dividends paying off for the Blue Jays. Troy Tulowitzki in his second at bat as the Toronto Blue Jays hit a 2-run homer, and they have a 2-0 lead against the Phillies.
He's gone from a great park to hit in the National League to a great park to hit in the American League. 2-2 in the dirt.
I don't think with him going to Toronto you worry too much about the splits that he's had in his career. Speaking of splits, the Marlins have hit this Nationals club pretty well this year coming into this game. In the 7 previous games, the Marlins against the Nationals have hit .312.
Ichiro at second. And strike 3 called. Echeverria called out on strikes. Fister got him looking, but Miami's on the board. A hit batter, that was Dietrich, and an RBI double, that was Ichiro. It's 1-0. It's the third. Data Strong fan of the game. T-Mobile says hashtag your strongest fan photo. to FL Data Strong Fan, and you just might see yourself featured in an upcoming telecast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. You never know. What did we do before selfies?
Yeah. Of course, we used your selfie stick in San Diego.
Yes. Yeah, and we got a little out of control, so we had to put it away. Top of the order, Anthony Rendon, Yunel Escobar, and Jason Worth against Tom Kohler. Bouncer, Prado. Quick first step for Prado. And he cuts it off and gets the out. Brings up Yunel Escobar.
It's good to get some quick outs after Tom Kohler had to throw 24 pitches in that first inning.
Now Escobar, who struck out in the first. So throwing error in the first by Kohler that set the Nationals up first and second. Escobar pops that one up. Bohr and Real Muto. It's Bohr and Real Muto. And I don't know if Bohr was talking or not, but that's his ball.
Yeah, that is. I think he just has to be a little more boisterous, a little louder, just to let Real Muto know. He kind of backs off. He comes at it easily. It is his ball. You wonder how loudly he was calling for it. And you want to say, JT, just get out of there. I'll handle this.
Well, Bohr was not talking. At least I did not see his mouth moving as he was coming towards the dugout.
And I don't know how you can, yeah, just like that. Another quick out, though. That's good.
5-3 again in the book.
I don't know how they can call it E2 when it actually hits Justin Bohr's glove. I think when you have a little collision like that, I think you just don't call anything. We'll see if that's changed.
Especially if the first baseman or third baseman, depending on the side of the diamond, is not calling the catcher off. And I'm sure even at the Tommy Hutton School of Baseball, they teach you go for it until you hear someone call you off.
And that is first baseman's ball. He just has to yell a little louder.
I'm still waiting for my camp T-shirt, by the way.
Have to get you the T-shirt.
Schmedium. 1-1, and it's in. Worth ducks out of the way.
Notice Tom Kohler working a little faster. Good rhythm. After that first inning, had a nice second inning.
That good spiked curveball digs that nail into it. Gets real good torque.
That's why Tom has been so successful. He's been able to command. You talked about him pitching off the fastball, which is important in commanding that. With slider, curveball, changeups, along with that fastball, he has all four.
Boy, that pitch, a perfect spot, and in some cases a strike. Echeverria to his left, and he got him. That was close. Bang, bang at first. 9-pitch inning for Tom Kohler. 1-0 Miami. 1-0. Miami on top, bottom 3. Legends of Wrestling. Brought to you by Modelo Especial. That's on Friday the 31st. Marlins at Padres at 7:10. Mick Foley, Kevin Nash, Nasty Boys, all of that. Wrestling night package is just $25. Enjoy post-game fireworks presented by Sagicor Life Insurance. Here's Kohler now. Tommy, I know you love holidays.
I do.
This is a holiday that you've got to wrap your arms around. It's National Lasagna Day.
Oh,
And Italian Heritage Day here at the ballpark.
prego, prego. Have a little Chianti with that.
Kohler is out number 1. D. Gordon and Martin Prado will follow. The Marlins' most famous Italian player. Would it be Mike Piazza for a week?
No, I don't think you can. Only 5 games. You can't count Piazza. Let's dig a little deeper.
Gordon shortens the bunt. Pfister misses in. Miami has just 1 hit. Ichiro, the RBI double in the second.
Yeah, we talked about Ichiro's first double of the year. He has 3 triples, and he has a home run.
Pfister pounding Gordon in. Slow tapper. Desmond hurries and just gets him.
Got a little help too from Ryan Zimmerman. Catching, coming off, just helping as much as he can at the other end. Bang, bang. I'll tell you another thing Pfister has done and done well. He's pitched well in the postseason. Pfister 4-2 with a 260 earned run average in 9 postseason games, 8 of those starts. But you have to wonder if his year kind of continues the way it has and the Nationals get to postseason, where he falls into things for them, especially if they get Strasburg back with Jordan Zimmerman. With Gio, you like to have a lefty. Max Scherzer.
Well, Scherzer's at the top, right? Prado, that was Pfister leaving one out over the plate with not much on it. And that's the swing we talked about, Tommy, that Prado finding a lot of hits back up the middle.
Well, I think, first of all, he gets a pitch up, and we talked about Pfister having to keep that sinker down. But I think the time off, when he injured his shoulder, it took a little while, first few games back, but all of a sudden I think we're seeing a healthy Martin Prado and a guy with a terrific approach.
There's Yelich. Yelich hit a drive to the warning track and right. It was a nice running catch by Bryce Harper. Pfister a 1-2-3 first. Part of his undoing in the second was that fastball that wandered in on Derek Dietrich, and when that happens, it usually clangs off that right elbow protector, which it did. Ichiro then lashed one down the left field line, and Miami had their run. Prado not really a threat to steal a bag. Lobaton chases him back.
Boy, not a good night for Bartolo Colon. 2 1/3, 10 hits, 6 runs. Right now, San Diego with a 6-1 lead in just the bottom of the third inning. Justin Upton, Yonder Alonso have homered for the Padres.
Yelich rolls one to the left of Rendon, who gets the out. And the Marlins are done in the third. 3 in the books. Miami a 1-0 lead. On top of the Nationals, it's the 4th. Marlins Park. Fish winners last night. D. Gordon with a great catch in that first to keep the Nationals off the board. And the Marlins getting their run on an Ichiro RBI double. And Tom Kohler got 3 ground ball outs to the left side of the infield in the third. Bryce Harper, Ryan Zimmerman, Ian Desmond. Harper struck out in the first. And after blasting 3 homers against Kohler the last time they met, it was a big strikeout. There were runners at first and second.
Got a couple of gloveless hitters in this game. Justin Bour doesn't wear batting glove. Bryce Harper not using the gloves.
Long run. Remember, that's Dietrich out there, and it lands fair. I don't know that Christian Yelich gets it anyways. That was a tough ball against a guy who's got enough power that you've got to respect him and play fairly deep.
Gets a fairly good jump. That just ball finds the right spot. Really, nobody there is going to catch it. That's the old Bermuda Triangle out there.
So here is Ryan Zimmerman.
So Harper makes it 25 consecutive games now he's reached base.
Nothing new on the impending Marlins Dodgers trade, at least that we've heard or have read. There are a lot of rumors, hot and heavy, with the Mets trying to get Carlos Gomez from the Milwaukee Brewers. I guess get him back, right? Didn't they trade him to Minnesota?
They had him at one time, yeah.
In the Johan Santana trade. I need to confirm that with our Mets insider, and it has been confirmed. And I believe the Twins then traded Gomez to Milwaukee for J.J. Hardy, I believe. Our Mets insider confirms that. This is good. We can get him to sign off on anything.
It's nice to have such close contact.
There's a strike to Zimmerman. And Bartolo Colon got knocked around tonight, right?
Yeah, he did.
That's been confirmed by our Mets insider.
10 hits and 6 runs in his 2 1/3. He's out of the game now.
Reluctantly confirmed by our Mets insider. 3-1 pitch is a strike. And the count full now, 3-2.
But informing us that the one Met run, a Lucas Duda home run, who has homered in 4 consecutive games now. 4 home runs last 4 games.
Talked about last night Harper not running as much as he has earlier in his brief career. It's his 4th year in the big leagues. Running here, and it's fouled back on 3-2 and nobody out.
Yeah, just going not to steal a bag, but a little run and hit on the move. 3-2 pitch.
Wrist injury from a headfirst slide last year.
See, now he breaks out the batting gloves and he holds on to them to try to protect those hands.
He's running again. That one fouled back. It was an emailer a week and a half ago. I believe it was Stan and Stan in Nashville, who watched a lot, recounting how in the old days, before batting clubs, before Hawk Harrelson brought his golf club to work, players used to just grab a handful of dirt. Long before hand sanitizer as well. Harper running. Zimmerman hits it center field and deep. Yelich has room. Makes a catch. Harper back to first. And we head to Craig Minervini.
Guys, big play in the game last night obviously was that double play in the 9th inning, and his infield coach Barry Hill told me today it's not just luck that helps you pull off a play. It's preparation and a lot of practice. First of all, the position called splits is where they play Yunel Escobar, kind of in between where you play a lefty and a righty hitter. T. Gordon knows if the ball hits the ground first, you come toward the ball. That's what he did. Why'd he throw the backhand? If he flipped it the other way, the runner becomes a problem. You've got to negotiate around him. So the idea is throw it on that outside of the bag, if you will, that bag towards center field with the backhand. He did it. There's a lot of distance to cover, too, as Desmond rips that ball into the corner.
Into the corner, Ichiro after it. Harper's racing for third and coming home. Relay throw from Gordon is up the line. Harper scores. And Desmond has tied the game. Boy, Bryce Harper was really motoring. It was a clean throw from Ichiro. Gordon's throw sailed a bit.
Boy, there's a solid swing by Desmond, who always has a contingent over from Sarasota High School. Probably a 3-base hit once it got into that corner. Harper with his head down, he picks up his third base coach, Bob Henley. He never hesitated. And just like that, a 1-1 ball game.
Infield in for Michael Taylor. And Tom Kohler misses away. Taylor bounced to third, back in the second.
A young player with a lot of talent, Michael Taylor. And with Denard Span on the disabled list, getting a lot of opportunities. And look at some of the numbers from the youngster out of Fort Lauderdale. Hitting .397 with runners in scoring position.
Got 4 household names on that list, and then Taylor's. And he drills it to left. Dietrich there has to go back on it. Desmond will score easily. And the Nationals have a 2-1 lead. A couple hits, a sacrifice fly, and a 1-run lead for Washington. That'll bring Jose Lobaton to the plate. Told you we are monitoring the potential trade between the Marlins and the Dodgers. Ken Rosenthal of Fox Sports just tweeted that a source has it that the Braves are the third team in the Marlins-Dodgers deal. Two. Also reports tonight that the Astros and Padres are hot and heavy, talking about a potential major deal. Told you about the Mets.
I would think the Astros might be looking for a pitcher.
Jam shot and a little pop that Prado hauls in, but the Nationals do some damage. They get 2 runs on 2 hits and now lead it 2-1. Marlins baseball on Fox Sports Florida, brought to you by your local Chevy dealers. Visit your South Florida Chevy dealers today. By Checkers, mix and match our famous Big Buford and Big Chicken Deluxe. Get 2 for $5. Checkers, it's in the bag. By Subaru Pembroke Pines, price service selection. You're going to love us. And by the all-new LG G4. See the great, feel the great. 2-1 ball game. Nationals on top of the Marlins, bottom 4. Batman, Captain America, Justin Bohr, and Doug Fister all in one. Changeup floats outside from Fister. JT Realmuto, Derek Dietrich will follow. It's 4-5-6 in Miami's order. Giancarlo Stanton continues to swing, hitting balls off the tee, little by little, getting the adhesions out in that surgically repaired hand.
You get to a point with that injury, any kind of a wrist or hand injury, you know, once you get through that, it's a mental thing to realize, all right, you can let it fly, you can let it go.
Three and 1 to Bohr. Popped out his first AB. And he walks. Marlins miss Giancarlo Stanton, especially against the Nationals. Especially up at Nationals Park, but even here he's done damage against him. 71 games, 24 home runs. Wow, look at the OPS on base and slugging. Leadoff walk, here's Real Muto. Fly to left.
We were talking about the Astros last night. A nice night for Jose Altuve. Great for 5, had 5 RBIs in their win over the Angels. The Troutless Angels. I don't think Mike Trout is in the lineup tonight.
John Heyman of CBS reporting Marlins Dodgers swap is paperwork at this point. It's still likely to happen. Pitches in, it's 3-1, and all of a sudden Fister having some trouble finding the strike zone. The walk to Bohr, the only walk he's given up in the ballgame. South Florida Honda dealers bring you Marlins Live Friday night, 6:30. Padres and Fish weekend series. Tomorrow's game at 12:10, not on television. Muto pulls it foul.
Max Scherzer and Dan Herron going in that afternoon game tomorrow.
Struck him out. Real Muto didn't like it. And he and Ben May have some words. And good reason not to like it. Pitch number 6.
It was kind of an odd call by Ben May, the home plate umpire.
It's a great job of framing by Lobaton. You see how he turns the, almost like the hand of a clock, turns the glove and then snaps it up? It shouldn't make a difference. Sometimes it does. And it's a costly call, because that would have been ball 4, and Dietrich would have been up with runners first and second and nobody out.
Some catchers do that too much, and umpires don't like that. They'll try to bring everything back into the zone.
Well, I think the key on that one was he didn't have to move the glove per se. He just spun it. Ball and a strike. Dietrich to center. It's hit well. Taylor, a lot of room out there, and he makes the catch.
You always hear comparisons with young players, with Michael Taylor out there in center field. Two great comparisons. You hear the name Devon White and Mike Cameron as far as ability to play center field.
Yeah, both were great center field.
They were outstanding. So that's high praise for a young player.
Ichiro now doubled down the left field line. That scored Dietrich. Takes ball 1. He's going to have to triple to score Bohr here.
Ichiro 3 for 8 in his career against Fister. They've matched up before.
$2,900 hits, and I guess the question now is, will Ichiro get to 3,000? That's a called strike. Ichiro backed out of the way, but it was a strike. Had plenty of the plate. It was right at the letters.
Well, you look at it this way, Rich. You get a couple of months left in the season. Obviously, it depends on how much playing time Ichiro is able to get. Let's say he gets 30 more hits. So now he's 70 hits shy of 3,000.
Then that's doable. Check swing. Did not go.
Also has 496 stolen bases.
And remember, he had almost 1,300 hits in Japan. So in his career, 4,178. Up the middle, and there's
add it to the total.
2,901. Pfister couldn't get the glove down fast enough.
Such a hard guy to defend. I mean, we saw the double down the left field line. This one back up the middle. Every once in a while, you'll see Ichiro turn on a ball.
Here's the Danny Echeverria. It was an interesting at bat in the second. Ichiro was at second. There were 2 outs, and you could see Pfister wasn't going to give in to Echeverria. Got him to chase a few, and then actually got a call. It was off the plate, but it was called strike 3 to get him. First base isn't open, but there is a bag open. It's Kohler on deck. Pfister says, I don't care. I'm coming right after him, and that may have surprised Echeverria.
Talking about Ichiro, if you break it down this year, he had 15 hits in April, 18 in May. Got a lot of playing time in May. 9 in June, and he has 15 so far here in July.
Into left, here comes Bohr. They will send him. Worst throw to the plate is cut. Bohr scores. Ichiro's in a rundown. Escobar, Rendon running Ichiro back. And Desmond catches him. 41, he can still scoot. He can. The Marlins get the run. Nice base running by Bohr. Good send by Lenny Harris. And a nice base hit by Echeverria. headed to our Geico Marlins moment. Courtesy of Geico, not the energy team. Anibal Sanchez shuts out the Giants. Walked 1, struck out 8, allowed just a 5th inning single to Pablo Sandoval. One of the many Marlin pitchers who have had big nights in San Francisco.
Ricky Nolasco, Anibal Sanchez,
Josh Johnson,
Chris Volstad. And you go back even a little further. How about Kevin Brown?
Tom Kohler got his first win there. Didn't he get a beer bath? Which is good on fish, right? Beer batter, fish and chips. That ended up on Tom Kohler and Preston Wilson's shoes. This moment in Marlins television history.
You just don't mess with Preston's shoes.
Doug Fister, Tom Kohler. Here comes the 5th. Anthony Rendon, Yunel Escobar right behind. Marlins and Nationals. Nationals yesterday, a big trade. Getting themselves Jonathan Papelbon, who is here in uniform. He and Drew Storen apparently will wrestle in the bullpen in the 7th, and the winner gets to pitch the 9th. Loser pitches the 8th. Center, Yelich is there and makes the catch.
I think a little safer test would be rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, Papelbon is a little bigger. But,
you know, it's a tough situation any way you look at it. Mike Rizzo, the GM, talked to Drew Storen yesterday. Papelbon talked to him. Not easy. I mean, I can understand. You can understand where Storen's coming from with the kind of year he's had. Unfortunately, Nationals fans remember postseason and some failures Storen had in postseason.
Who's a better pitcher right now?
Storen.
Which is the odd part of the whole
That's
deal.
exactly right.
And look, I don't know the ins and outs, but Tyler Clippard was available and he was just traded for.
Get Clippard a Met now.
Anthony Rendon up. Tom Kohler's 1-1. And it misses out. But you noted earlier in the telecast, you can never have too many closers.
Never can.
You look at Kansas City last year in the World Series. The Giants have had a 2-closer deal going. Romo and Casilla. Rendon is out. Papelbon and Storen side by side.
Yeah, you can't argue 17 out of 17, though. So the bottom line, it's going to be a very solid back end of the bullpen.
Here's Escobar. Craig Minervini, you were down for the press conference, weren't you, with Jonathan Papelbon? How'd that go?
Interesting press conference. He talked for probably a good 15 minutes, addressed the big topic that you're talking about. He said, I called Storen before the deal and wanted to make sure he was okay with it. Talked to Rizzo. Obviously, Storen was not okay with it, but they're going to try and make it work. As Papelbon said to Storen, he said, I've been in this situation myself with Billy Wagner, with Eric Gagne, some of the best closers in the game, and they're two of my best friends now, and I'm here to win. But Washington is a better team right now with Papelbon and Storen. It is an interesting thing, and Tommy, you could address the clubhouse faction that could occur here, where you got a popular guy like Storen who's done a great job, and now you bring Papelbon in who will help you win, but he takes the position of Storen, and he would not have come here without taking that position, without being named the closer.
Saw the shot of Matt Williams. Not an easy situation for a manager to deal with either.
Isn't it all about winning, though? The Nationals right now are sliding. They've dropped 4 of 5. They've dropped 7 of 10. If Papelbon arrives and all of a sudden they start to win, everybody will be happy.
That's exactly right. Winning takes care, you heard this said a million times, takes care of all kinds of problems. I notice that Storen's not sitting next to Papelbon, though. I don't think Papelbon's there yet.
No, he's the closer. He doesn't have to get out there till late. A lot of closers don't go to the bullpen until later in the ball game. Who was the closer that used to take? I think it was Trevor Hoffman. Used to take a shower.
Take a shower.
Like in the third or the fourth inning.
Got to relax in the clubhouse.
A little stretch.
Yeah, then you can head out.
Spot treatment. Count 3-2. Up the middle into center field. You know, Escobar, his first hit of the night. He's 1 for 3, a 2-out single. And it brings up Jason Worth. Well, last night we were talking about the Nationals and how the Mets have chased him down to just the one game. The Mets tonight and Bartolo Colon on the mound. That didn't go well. 6-1 Padres. It's bottom 4 of at Citi Field. Still time. Padres are here this weekend. And then the Mets come in on Monday.
So far, a pretty good debut for Troy Tulowitzki in Toronto. He's 2 for 3 with a double and a home run. A couple of RBIs. The Blue Jays have a 4-0 lead behind R.A. Dickey, who's got the knuckler knuckling.
That's by Echeverria into center field. Escobar not stopping, and he ends up at third base. And that means Kohler's going to have to face Bryce Harper with runners at first and third.
Ball hit on the nose. Your hope is it kicks a little more off the mound and kicks a little bit toward Echeverria. Not the case, out of the reach of Etch. And just like that, first and third, back-to-back hits with 2 out.
For the record, Jose Reyes was in the lineup and hitting second for the Rockies in Chicago. He was 1 for 3 with a stolen base.
Actually, I think Reyes got a hit his first time up against John Lester.
Anthony Rizzo, Dexter Fowler homering in a 3-2 Cubs win.
Lester had 14 strikeouts in his 8 innings.
If you're the Cubs, what's your move? Is it back of the bullpen? Is it Craig Kimbrell, Aroldis Chapman type? Or do you just stand pat?
I think as most, they would be interested in another starter.
But Harper has such a mean rip. I mean, it is a violent swing. There's nothing fluid about it. There's your wild card.
The Cubs have kind of been floating. Hector Rondon got the save today. They've used Jason Mott a little bit.
0-2. That's in. Kohler backs him off the plate with a fastball. Tom Kohler struck Harper out with 2 on in the first. Harper singled to start that 2-run fourth. 2 outs here. Escobar and Worth on the corners. To right, Ichiro looking up, and it is gone. A 3-run shot. Harper haunts Kohler again.
Wow. Bryce Harper with his 3 at-bats and 2 hits against Kohler tonight has 7 hits in 21 at-bats. 5 of those 7 hits have been home runs.
Kohler's reaction.
Fastball up, kind of middle of the plate. Remember in Washington, out over the plate on a couple of them. See the target? See where JT's reaching? He's set up outside and has to reach up for it. That gives Bryce Harper the National League lead now with his 28th home run.
Moving him past Giancarlo Stanton. Zimmerman swings and misses.
I think there are two guys, and we talked about this last night. When you're thinking of National League MVP, you think of Bryce Harper and you think of Paul Goldschmidt.
Arizona, whom the Marlins took 2 of 3 from, just finished off today with a win and a sweep against Seattle and have won 5 straight. And they beat King Felix in the process. Zimmerman strikes out, but the damage done here. All 3 hits with 2 outs, and the third a 3-run shot by Bryce Harper. Lead, Bryce Harper is 28th of the season. Halfway through in Miami. Doug Fister faces Kohler to open up the bottom of the 5th. Fister throws in a strike. Kohler, Gordon, Prado. Fister going right at Kohler. That's strike 3 called. Every weeknight, don't miss MLB Whip Around on Fox Sports 1. Highlights, instant analysis, live look-ins from around the league. MLB Whip Around airs weeknight 7 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Streams live on Fox Sports Go. D. Gordon's 0 for 2. His flied out, bounce down. Fister gets a strike. Talk about the value of being left-handed as a pitcher and how sometimes left-handed pitchers, even though they're not effective, can still stay in the league simply because they're left-handed, and somehow they'll be able to get outs just because they're left-handed. Sometimes I think the same applies for a tall pitcher. I mean, at 6'8", 6'9", Chris Young, Doug Fister, with that funky over-the-top Josh Colmetzer type delivery. Fister certainly blossomed once he got to Detroit. Really had a nice year last year. think an underappreciated asset in Detroit's rotation. And you can say the same once he arrived in Washington. A lot more names in that rotation sexier than Fister's.
Well, to acquire Fister, Nationals sent Ian Kroll, Steve Lombardozzi, and Robbie Ray to the Tigers.
Gordon is out, number 2. Colombian Heritage Night on Saturday night. Salt and Pepper. That's the concert. Of course, all you can eat seats, just $35. Hip hop legends will be performing after the ball game. It's presented by Lexus. Go to Marlins.com today.
We were talking about Arizona. It was good to see, looking at their box score yesterday, David Peralta, 3 for 4, a couple of RBIs. Remember, he was hit by Jose Fernandez.
He drove in a couple of runs today.
So good to see him back playing.
Fister all of a sudden has shifted into the mode of, I've got a 3-run lead. It's a big ballpark here. Try to hit it.
Which you want every pitcher to do once you get a lead.
Desmond's throw is on the money, and Fister a shutdown inning with a 3-run lead. Bryce Harper is feeling electric with a 3-run homer. That's the difference in a 5-2 Washington lead. Tommy Hutton, Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine, Rich Waltz with you. Marlins Park in Miami. Tom Kohler back to work. Ian Desmond. Christian Yelich. And and out to open up the 6th inning. We are monitoring and keeping our finger on the trade pulse. The Braves reportedly, by multiple sources, the 3rd team in the Marlins-Dodgers deal. One report has Alex Wood of the Braves, and this is Ken Rosenthal of Fox Sports. That's a nice play by Martin Prado. Alex Wood would go to the Dodgers if the 3-team deal with the Marlins is completed. Both J.P. Morosi and Ken Rosenthal reporting that for Fox Sports. H.H. Gregg brings you a nifty high-def highlights.
Yeah, just looking at a tweet by Jim Bowden, former GM, broadcaster now, said that the trade, the potential 3-way trade, likely to still happen as the teams navigate through hiccups.
Which our producer John Sulzer had about 2 minutes ago, actually 2 innings ago. But I think he did either the hold your breath or drink water upside down trick. He's fine now.
Never tried that one. I've held my breath. You hold your nose, hold your breath.
The water upside down works better.
How do you do that?
Can't show you now. I got a headset on. Lobaton lines out, and Justin Bour makes the catch. 1-2-3 inning, bottom of the 6th. Nationals by 3. Marlins 2 runs, 4 hits, and Miami has committed a pair of errors. Saturday, Major League Baseball returns Freeway Series. Angels, Dodgers in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1. Coverage begins 3:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. It streams live on Fox Sports Go. Christian Yelich in the box. Doug Fister. Yelich tries to bunt, pushes it foul. Yelich, Justin Bour, JT Realmuto. Single runs in the 2nd and the 4th. Doug Fister has not had a great year, so he's trying to iron things out as the season heads towards August.
You know, a guy that he's handled, I was just looking, Christian Yelich, 0 for 9 in his career against Doug Fister.
How did you, as a left-handed bat, find over-the-top righties who were tall like Fister?
Trying to think of a couple of guys. There was he wasn't over the top, though. He was more 3/4. Big right-hander with San Francisco. I'll think of his name.
Ed Halicki?
Ed Halicki. Yeah, he was tall, but he was more 3/4.
Jonathan Papelbon. Has arrived. Yelich swings and misses. Fister, 87 mile an hour, elevated it. T-Mobile is into selfies and fan photos. As promised, here is the Data Strong fan photo at the game. Dory. NFL Data Strong fan is the hashtag. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Now Bourne. Troy Tulowitzki, a big night tonight.
It just doubled again.
Couple doubles and a home run for Tulowitzki in his Blue Jay debut. Bour gets clipped by that low fastball. And it's the second man that Fister has hit.
Last 2 times up for Justin Bour, he's gotten on base. He walked, came in to score. Back in the 4th inning and hit by pitch here.
Now Real Muto. Pivotal call in the 4th. Real Muto on a 3-2 pitch thought he had walked. He was rung up by Ben May. The pitch was not in the strike zone. Miami would have had first and second and nobody out. As it was, they did get a run on the Echeverria single with 2 outs. Real Muto to left. Worth charging in, makes the catch.
Thought it's interesting in that Blue Jays game, the first game for Tulowitzki, they have him batting leadoff. So a pretty productive leadoff hitter, and he certainly has been that tonight. Yeah, they're storing in Papelbon.
They'll work it out. They'll work it out.
Yeah, they will. You're absolutely right. They're both professional enough.
Dietrich fouls it off. Papelbon certainly is familiar with pennant races. Of course, he was a closer on a world championship team with Boston.
You know, and having been in the National League East with the Phillies, he's certainly familiar with the work of Drew Storen as well.
Dietrich sends that one to center. Taylor got turned around, and he's perfectly in the spot to make the catch. It's good work in center by Taylor, and Dietrich hit it a long ways. 5-2 Nationals. 5-2 Washington on top of the Marlins. This is game 2, 3-game set. Lexus Pembroke Pines remind you that tomorrow's start time is 12:10. No television tomorrow. We'll be back in numbers. Jeff Conine joins the group on Friday night. The Padres are here for 3. Then the Mets Monday through Wednesday. That should be fun. Off to Atlanta, home for Boston. JP Morosi chiming in. There's Cole Gillespie out in center field, saying that the Dodgers, Marlins, Braves trade is nearing completion.
Well, Christian Yelich goes to the left, Gillespie in center. Sam Dyson comes in to pitch, and he'll be facing a pinch hitter, Tyler Moore. So with Dyson and Gillespie coming in at the same time, Gillespie hitting in the 9th spot and Dyson hitting in Dietrich's spot.
Tyler Moore, and you got top of the order Anthony Rendon, Yunel Escobar. Pulled to third. Prado loads up, gets the out. The difference in this ball game is a Bryce Harper 3-run homer. That was in the 5th. Tom Kohler going 6 innings.
Boy, a guy who has haunted Tom Kohler before, too. Harper with his 5th career home run against Kohler.
Had 3 in 1 game last time they squared off. Rendon, that's a fair ball. That one down the line, picked up in the corner by Yelich. Prado reacted like it was foul, but from my vantage point, Hut, it looked fair the whole way. And unless Bob Davidson is umpiring down there at third.
We've had a couple of Bob Davidson mentions. Yeah. Remember, if it lands in fair territory, bounces, and then goes over the bag, and it doesn't have to bounce inside the line on that bounce. So, yeah, it was a fair ball. A good call by Jeff Kellogg down there third.
Actually, Gabby Sanchez's ball was more fair than that ball.
But it was spinning, Rich. It was spinning.
That's right. There's Escobar.
I wonder how Gabby's doing in Japan. We got to check on Gabby.
Somebody sent me a link a couple days ago on Twitter of Gabby's clothesline tackle. Niger Morgan
in the Chris Volstad game.
Well, the Nationals bullpen, Casey Jansen. You know, it will be interesting to see as we get to the 8th. Will Storen pitch the 8th? To center. That's a long ways back there. Pushing Gillespie just very deep center. He makes the catch. And that's enough room for Rendon to move to third. Bark at the Park's coming up on Sunday. Marlins and Padres at 1:10. Pepsi 4 for 74 pack is available. Bring your dogs to Bark at the Park with the Humane Society of Broward County. Fans get a Marlins All-Star poster courtesy of Franklin Dodd Communications. Marlins.com, the place to go. Now Worth, and he takes outside.
Yeah, it's great when we have to tap into the Far East. to crack staffers to let us know how Gabby's doing.
You don't have a crack staffer in the Far East.
236, 6 home runs, 17 RBIs. I believe playing for the same team that Casey McGee played on.
Rakuten?
Yeah. That is correct.
Casey McGee not in Miami's lineup tonight. Dyson 2-2 on Worth. With Rendon 90 feet away, 2 outs in the 7th. Both starters go 6. And Dyson pitches a scoreless 7th. Strikes out Jason Worth. Ichiro. 2 hits tonight. Leading off. Seventh inning stretch. This copyright telecast presented by the authority of the Marlins may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins. Rich Waltz along with Tommy Hutton, Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine. Nationals dip into their pen. Casey Jansen in relief. Ichiro will lead it off in the 7th. Outside of our telecast, we talked about the proposed / potential / rumored trade between the Marlins and the Los Angeles Dodgers. We've reported throughout the night that the Atlanta Braves are the 3rd team involved and that trade is very close to happening. That all coming from Ken Rosenthal and JP Morosi of Fox Sports. Joel Sherman is reporting that the Mets have Carlos Gomez, the price, Zach Wheeler, and Wilmer Flores. Ichiro up the middle. Desmond spinning, throwing, and getting Ichiro by a step. That's a heck of a play, and it shows you the strength of Desmond's arm. He really humped it up.
Well, one of the strong parts, certainly, of his fielding game is that terrific arm. He showed it off there. He knew he had to hurry once he came around with a spin. Yeah, nice little stretch from Ryan Zimmerman over there first base, too.
Let's check in with Craig Minervini. Craig?
A pretty good stretch, too, by Ryan Zimmerman over there at first base, who won a Gold Glove with Washington a few years ago. But he's had those shoulder problems, some throwing issues, and when they moved Adam LaRoche, who signed a free agent deal with Chicago, Zim moved over to first. He played 5 games there last year, and he told me it's a new challenge. He's learning that position at first base. It's a little bit tricky in terms of getting plays from the pitcher. You're on the backhand, the cutoffs, but you catch every day. He's a good hands guy. He likes that part. Mike Rizzo, the GM, thinks he could be a Teixeira-like, move from third base over to first base and be Gold Glove caliber. One thing Zimmerman told me, he said he knows a big advantage if you have a really good first baseman. He said, I know that from personal experience. LaRoche helped me, and I want to be that guy, that huge advantage at first base.
Echeverria, left center field. It's caught there by Taylor. A 1-for-3 night for Echeverria. And here comes Cole Gillespie, who resides now in that 9 spot. What do you think, Tommy Hutton? Mets giving up Zach Wheeler and Wilmer Flores for Carlos Gomez.
Well, they've been looking for offensive help. Lagares, a terrific center fielder, so he's not going to be in center. I would imagine Gomez will play there. The Brewers certainly get a nice pitcher in Zach Wheeler and an offensive guy in Wilmer Flores. Remember the big home runs that Flores hit against the Marlins early in the year. So the Marlins will see Flores in Milwaukee in August and then back here.
It's the only team Miami's not faced. The 3-0 pitch to Gillespie. Second time Jansen has started his windup and then stopped. I think part of the storyline here tonight is who pitches the 8th. Jonathan Papelbon joining the ball club today. Drew Storen. I guess he's the former closer, deposed closer. Gillespie in the air to right. Harper's out there. And in the 7th, Jansen goes 1, 2, 3. Game summary.
Well, let's go back to the second inning. The Marlins actually got a run on the board first. Base hit by Ichiro, a double, his first double of the season. Answering back, the Washington Nationals get a Ian Desmond triple that drives home Harper. A sac fly by Michael Taylor, and it's 2-1 Washington. Marlins thought they'd get back in it. They did. Base hit by Echeverria. Good swing there. That tied it up. Dustin Bohr coming in to score, but the big blow of the game in the 5th inning. Fastball, middle of the plate, up and away. Bryce Harper took it. A 3-run shot. His 5th career home run against Tom Kohler.
Warren Henry drive of the game was a painful one for Miami, and Harper, right field. That is crushed. Wow. My goodness. Bryce Harper piling on. 6-2 Nationals.
It's all about location. It isn't about velocity. Doesn't matter if it's 95, if it's belt high out over the plate. Bryce Harper's going to hit it a long way, and he did. Center cut, as they say. So you're at the major league level. You can't just rear back and throw it hard, especially to guys like Harper. He took it a long way. That's one of the longer ones we've seen.
From a left-handed bat, it may be the longest we've seen in this ballpark. This is, what, year 4 in Marlins Park.
You also have to rethink a game plan if that's how you're going to pitch Harper. How many home runs has Harper hit against the Marlins this year now?
Too many.
And they got a lot of games left with the Nationals. So go back to the drawing board and figure out how to pitch that guy. Harper hit one here on April 26th. He hit the 3 in Washington. So he's hit 6 home runs against the Marlins just this year.
5 of those have come in Tom Kohler starts, 4 against Kohler. 3-run shot in the 5th. And then homering here against Dyson to open up the 8th. Well, on a night where the Mets are down 7-1 to the Padres, this would be an important win for the Nationals. It would get them back to a 2-game cushion in the East.
So the Marlins, this is the 8th game they've played the Nationals. In those 8 games, Harper in 26 at bats, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs.
Ryan Zimmerman. 1 out in the 8th. Chevron brings you tomorrow's starters. No television tomorrow. Marlins Radio Network. Or maybe pirate the Nationals feed on Masson, Max Scherzer, and Dan Herron. It's brought to you by Chevron. And I mean that in the most lawful way.
There's always a way. But as you said, if you listen on Marlins Radio to Dave Van Horn, Glenn Geffner, you'll be fine too.
Desmond, a tapper out to short. Echeverria, quick release, gets the out. 2nd out of the 8th. Well, Drew Storen is up. It's a 4-run lead right now, 6-2. So maybe Matt Williams is still going to test drive his new back of the bullpen model with Storen the 8th, Papelbon the 9th. Taylor takes a strike. Applebaum is familiar with the Clevelander as well. So he's in the same division. He's facing a lot of the same hitters, warming up in the same bullpens, looking at the same flamingos. To right, Taylor hits it well. Ichiro goes back and looks up. That ball is out of here. Michael Taylor, opposite field shot. The Washington Nationals have a nice young player with Michael Taylor. It's his 9th homer, his 2nd RBI of the night.
Boy, the kid born in Fort Lauderdale, and we talked about it yesterday at the very beginning of this series. Michael Taylor, Clint Robinson, Danny Espinosa, another. They have contributed. There's another mistake pitch, and Taylor took advantage of it. They have contributed greatly with guys like Worth and Zimmerman, Denard Span on the disabled list. Saw Michael Taylor before the game today. Lots of friends and family he was chatting with behind home plate. So a nice moment for him.
Bryce Harper's buddies are back, right? He's got Worth and Zimmerman around him. He's homered twice. Mets are losing 7-1 late in their ball game against San Diego, so life is good for the Nationals. If everything holds, it's back to a 2-game lead. Papelbon is here. There's peace in the bullpen. It's interesting too on a night like this with all the trade rumors flying. A lot of people are watching games just to see who's coming out of the games. We've got a few that we'll report on when we return. Swing and a miss. Lobaton goes down. 2 more homers for the Nats. 7-2. Tyson. For Bryce Harper, now with 29 home runs. Toyota Trent, Matt Williams pacing the dugout. Division leaders on the road. He's got the best road record of the division leaders. The Nationals, not so much, nor the Dodgers. But the Royals, it's good to be in Missouri and St. Louis. Actually, it's good to be on the road if you play in Missouri. As the bullpen turns, in our first chapter, Drew Storen arrives in the 8th. It's a role that he's had before. And a fastball is fouled back. He comes into a game where it obviously is not a safe situation. But Matt Williams wanting to get some work for guys like Storen and Papelbon, you would expect. So here is Storen. Remember, after the postseason meltdown, Rafael Soriano came in. It was Clippard, Storen, Soriano. Such a great 7th, 8th, 9th inning. Storen, in the absence of the other two, took the closer's role, ran with it, and has had a really nice season. That is strike 3 called. So D. Gordon goes down. And we'll see if Matt Williams is able to test drive this back of the bullpen here. Give Storen the 8th, give Papelbon the 9th. Looks like Papelbon with the weighted balls getting ready for that 9th inning. So a nice soft landing for everybody. Here in game 2 of the series in Miami.
Remember, too, a couple of years ago, Drew Storen actually was sent down for 6 games to work on some things. And to his credit, came back last year and made a few changes.
When he came back from the minor leagues, he was lights out to finish that year, and then you're right, last year as well. Prado. Sends one out to Rendon. To Storen. Sharp as the first 2 outs of the 8th. MLB.TV Premium, #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 13 years. Every out-of-market regular season game live or on demand. Live baseball on over 400 mobile and connected devices. You might even get a pitch tracking widget. Who doesn't like a pitch tracking widget? Visit MLB.TV for details. Andre Rienzo, Brad Hand in Miami's pen. Here's Yelich. 2 hits last night, hitless tonight, 0 for 3. This was a Doug Fister, Tom Kohler game. All remodeling jokes aside, Fister in line for win number 4. Yelich swings and
There's a
misses.
pitch right there that has helped Storen, that changeup. Used to be primarily fastballs and sliders. Gives you that little hesitation in his delivery.
Knee-high strike. First round pick out of Stanford. Storen. One and 2. And Yelich swings and misses in a high breaking ball. Drew Storen handles the 8th, possibly Papelbon in the 9th. Right now, Nationals up 5. The Brazilian Andre Rienzo in for Miami. Remember, Rienzo had a nice outing in Toronto. Flexible guy. He could give you a spot start. He could also pitch middle or short relief.
Yeah, he is a guy that has value in a bullpen because he can go more than one inning. So his 3 games that we saw him earlier did a nice job.
Dan Uggla climbs in the box. Uggla takes outside. For Uggla, it was a pleasure to see him in spring training with the Nationals, all the injuries they had in the spring. Looking for a job after the Braves and the Giants last year. Both gave him a shot and then figured they would move on. Uggla takes outside. Of course, longtime Marlin. Signed that big contract with the Braves, who are still paying him.
You know, it's amazing with the numbers Uggla has posted. There are his career numbers as a Marlin. But Uggla at 194, just 1 home run, and with everybody healthy back for the Nationals, Rendon, Espinosa's there, Escobar. It's amazing that Uggla has remained.
And the hard part now is trying to stay sharp with at bats. He hits here in the 9th. The Rockets 1 foul. Remember the home run he hit here as an Atlanta Brave off the sun on the home run sculpture with a loud thud. It hit that sculpture right, almost as if that was a bullseye. I mean, if that were the old days, right? Those old ballparks, hit the sign, win a suit.
And it's hard to hit one off the sun in a night game, too.
He did it.
And he did it. He did it. There it is, right there. There it is. That was one of the longer non-Giancarlo Stanton home runs. Have we gotten a distance on Harper's?
Both of them?
The second one.
I'll go 450.
Hey, I'm in the 440, 450 range, yeah.
They look strikingly familiar to the balls he hit off of Kohler, the 2 right field shots on that afternoon game in D.C. Balls that were up in the upper tank.
Yeah, and that second
DC.
deck, yeah, second deck at Nationals Park, yeah.
Struck him out. Rendon called out on strikes. Rienzo gets the punch out. That last shot of Harper and Zimmerman, that is
a great shot.
It is, because for a guy like Matt Williams, having a Zimmerman on the team, having a Worth on the team,
Jason Worth, another,
and allowing those guys,
and the last couple of years in Adam LaRoche,
those guys to rub off on Harper, act as a resource when needed, a guiding hand. Immeasurable. Here is Escobar. Escobar a single in 4 trips. There's Worth.
And there are times over the last few years for Harper that a young kid, he hasn't been the most receptive from those guys, but I think he understands. I think you really see a different Bryce Harper this year.
I think everybody around the league agrees with you. Prado, Gordon, Bohr. Miami gets a double play. Well, the finish, need 5, 7-2 Washington. Marlins baseball on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by your South Florida Honda dealers. By Kubota. For more information or find a participating dealer, go to FloridaCubota.dealers.com. And by Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer. Visit us at FloridaCoastEQ.com. Jonathan Papelbon got up, started to stretch, started to work it, but sat back down.
Well, you talk about depth in a pitching staff. When you can have a guy working out of your bullpen, 26 games, he has started 6 times. Tanner Roark won 15 games last year for the Nationals. He was 15-10 with a .285 earned run average. This year, primarily out of the bullpen.
And it hasn't been a great year out of the bullpen. So you wonder, is Tanner Roark a guy that they would slide back into their rotation should they lose Jordan Zimmerman? Or is he a piece that some other team will hunt for in the offseason?
And when you say lose Jordan Zimmerman to free agency,
who knows? They may re-sign him, but you never know. 1-1 to Bohr, who grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. That's a strike. Swing, says Jeff Kellogg. 1-2.
Justin Bohr's first home run this year in May at Nationals Park.
We have been keeping tabs on all the trade rumors. A full recap of the day in baseball business. Let's see if the Morris Latos to the Dodgers finally goes down. Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine. In all the machinations that you've seen on Twitter and on the internet tonight, it seems that Michael Morse would end up with the Braves. Latos would end up with the Dodgers. 2-2. Marlins would get 3 minor league arms prospects from the Dodgers, and the Braves would end up getting an arm. And it sounds like the competitive balance pick, which is a valuable pick, it's the old sandwich pick. Usually it would fall with the Marlins between 30 and 40. Sounds like that would end up with the Braves. Maybe by the time we get to Marlins Live, it's a done deal. Mets have reportedly been able to get Carlos Gomez tonight. It cost them Zach Wheeler and Wilmer Flores, who was still in the game last night. I looked. Would expect they would want to get him off the field. That deal is indeed done. 3-2 to Bohr. He took it, and it's low, and he walks. Well, Drew Storen worked the 8th. The lead lengthened by the Nationals, so no Papelbon. But if a few guys get on, you would expect Papelbon to pop up and start to throw.
Let's see if JT can extend his hitting streak. Remember, he came into the game a 9-game hitting streak. Looking for his first tonight.
Just reading the reports out of New York. Wilmer Flores getting a standing ovation in what will probably be his last at bat as a Met. See, fans have Twitter too. Real Muto up, Bohr's at first, 7-2. Nationals on top. There is Papelbon. Casey McGee has emerged on deck. That's the pitcher spot. Count 2-2.
The other thing we haven't touched on why, with the possible trade coming down, would be the replacements. Who would take Matt Latos's turn in the rotation?
Who would take Michael Morse's spot? Real Muto gets into that, hooks it, and it's foul.
I mean, could it be a Justin Nicolino? It could be a Brad Hand out of the bullpen, a Jose Urena. Adam Connolly's been throwing well, but he just threw last night and got the win. Connolly 9-3 with a 252 earned run average, but he threw last night a 5-2 win against Colorado Springs.
Would moving Morse open a spot for Marcell Ozuna?
Yes, absolutely.
Two. And Real Muto. Taylor is there, and he makes the catch. And here is Casey McGee. Well, for August and September, the goal for Casey McGee is get back to where he was last year. Try to recapture the swing, the approach, and the results earned him comeback player of the year.
I think he's in a spot where he feels comfortable working with Frank Menachino.
Sources say the Texas Rangers are close to getting Cole Hamels.
Wow.
We talked about it last night. One of the scenarios that was raised by the new commissioner, Rob Manfred, is moving the trading deadline back into mid-August. There's 2 months left. And some feel that the deadline with 2 months left in the season forces teams to make a decision one way or the other.
When in fact it might be a little too early to have to make that decision.
Especially for a team that's on the fence. We were just in San Diego and talked about the Padres and their dilemma. All of a sudden they were hot, but they were still 7.5 out of the wild card. They had some guys that have big contracts that other teams might like. One, two. That's a line down the right field line. That is a fair ball. Into the corner it goes. Bohr headed for third. And Lenny Harris is going to send him, then stop him. In a wise decision in a 7-2 game. McGee has a double, and the Marlins have a couple on, and that means Jonathan Papelbon will speed his process in the Nationals' pen.
There's that good approach by Casey McGee that we saw so many times last year. And remember, that was after a couple of quick strikes. Roark got a hit 0-2. Football stumped down their right field line. No sense taking chances at that point.
Ichiro's 2 for 3. RBI double, single. He was robbed of a hit on a nice play by Ian Desmond. He has crossed the 2,900 hit threshold. And thus is double digits away from 3,000. Not that it will make a difference in his Hall of Fame candidacy. Ten-time All-Star, 10 Gold Gloves, the all-time record for hits in a season, 262. 262. Breaking George Sisler's record of 257. Sisler set that record in 1920. Ichiro broke it in 2004. Struck him out. Ichiro taking a called third.
Don't see Ichiro take too many called third strikes. I believe he thought this ball was up. Well, it's borderline, but it's in there.
Echeverria. And Aurora trying to finish this ninth, keep Jonathan Papelbon in the pen. His Nationals debut may have to wait till tomorrow. Gillespie on deck, 2-0. Echeverria an RBI single. if there's a human element to all of the trades. Watching some of the shots from New York, a teary-eyed Wilmer Flores trying to finish that game. Two and two. Marlins Live will get you up to date, up to speed on everything that has happened in baseball today and tonight, and maybe between now and then. Towards the line, Hoppa is over, and it's out of his reach. Troy Tulowitzki, a sparkling debut in Toronto, 3 for 5. A homer, 2 doubles, drove in 3, scored 3 runs.
And a little over 27,000 at Rogers Center, too.
Three balls, 2 strikes. It was just outside. Maria to center. Michael Taylor's run everything down tonight, and he finishes the game in deep right center. The Marlins are done in the ninth, and the Nationals even this series